Hello, and welcome back to NRI Woman, the show where we share amazing stories of women of Indian origin living across the world. We hope in sharing these stories, you are inspired, learn something new, or simply know you are not alone in the struggles you face. I'm Bettina.
And I'm Nanora. Ladies, we have a request. If you haven't already subscribed to the show, could we please request you to like, subscribe, share, or comment on this podcast? This will help others discover our podcast, and you never know who really needs to hear this message today. Most of us are likely familiar with the unique tradition that's been playing Cupid for generations: matchmaking. It isn't just about finding someone to share your life with, but the coming together of traditions, family vibes, and the quest for love in a way that's meant to be. And today we're chatting with someone who has managed to bring that magic to over 1,000 families. Anuradha Gupta is the founder of Vows for Eternity, a global matchmaking service.
Anuradha spent her formative years in a quaint mountain town in India. Since then, she has lived in Melbourne, London, Los Angeles, New York, San Francisco, and New Delhi. Curiosity was her compass and pushing boundaries her fuel. It was this very spirit that propelled her to trade Melbourne's sun-kissed shores for the bustling streets of London. She joined Arsenal Football Club, a domain completely unfamiliar to her. Yet, armed with determination and the trust of her manager, she not only adapted but thrived during her 8 years at Arsenal. It was during her time in London that she crossed paths with her now husband.
So, when we were introduced through some common friends, and he was in Los Angeles, I was in London at the time, and we connected. We spoke to each other on the phone for a couple of months before he came to London, and he was there for a work trip, and we met up one evening, and I think the evening was, we met up around 6 and after work for the both of us, and then we had a drink, we went out for dinner, and then it was just we went for a walk around by the Thames, and then for a nightcap after, and it was just, it was just lovely. We just connected, we spoke for hours, and time just flew, and I think we spoke about everything other than too much about what we do, and there was certainly no talk about marriage or any of that kind of a conversation. It was more just the world and travel and all of that, and there was a lot of things that we had in common, but at the end of the day, it was just a wonderful conversation and a wonderful evening, and then we went our separate ways. And the next day, he sent me a message, he called me just to check on me that I've reached okay, and then the next day he asked me if I want to meet up for coffee, and it was we had a match on, there was a game on, and I couldn't, and he was then leaving for Austria, and then we did. So then after that, we actually lost, we totally lost in touch with each other for about 3 months, or just a little over 3 months. There was no email, there was no text, there was absolutely no conversation. I came to India and I was traveling, Nainital, this, that, and the other, and there was absolutely no conversation at all. And then when I went back to London, me and a couple of friends were planning a trip to LA, and I had reached out to him, just dropping a message saying, hey, we're planning to come to LA, it'd be nice to meet up and whatever. So that's how we reconnected. And we spent some time over the 3 days that I was in LA, and that was it. I think at the end of those 3 days, when he came to the airport to see me off, and I was heading back to London, and it was then, as I was leaving, that's when I knew that this is the person I want to spend my life with. This was it for me. And I was 34, so I wasn't that, I was in my 20s, and I was, never had a relationship, or I was just, it wasn't any of that. And I was really surprised at the way I was feeling, because I'd met this guy all of, few days, and that was it. It just felt right. And that's when I knew that this is the person I want to be with.
Whether you're happily married, navigating a relationship, or searching for love, we can all relate to that challenge of finding that special someone to share our life with. Anuradha understands the struggle firsthand, as finding her own perfect match wasn't a walk in the park. It was her personal journey that inspired her to kickstart her own company.
I actually started this, because of my own experience when I was looking for a life partner. I always thought one day I'll just, it was almost like somebody will just knock on your door and say, "Here I am." But in reality, none of that really happens. But on a more serious note, when you're, at least I felt that when I was working, office romances are not really encouraged. And I mean, who do you meet and where do you meet? And you're working long hours and all of that. And it's just, and then this whole thing of, it works for a lot of people, all this online things and whatever. And it somehow it just didn't work for me.
Deciding to start a business is one thing, but diving in and making it happen, a whole other ballgame. Anuradha grew up in a family of entrepreneurs, so one could say that having the business spark was kind of in her DNA. With a clear vision in her mind about what she wanted to achieve, the next step was turning those ideas into reality. It was time to take action and make things happen.
So I shared the idea with my family, and that was the starting point. And from there onwards, I just obviously it takes a while, and it took me maybe the first 2 years just to. Definitely the first year just to work on the idea, just to figure it out in my head how I want to do this. But it was relatively easy for me, because I really wasn't looking for funding, and B, it found me. So it came from, because I felt so strongly about this, I wasn't trying to put something together for any, to kind of find the pieces together. I just knew what I wanted to do, and because I felt strongly about it, I knew the parts that I wanted to come together. I was coming from a place where I felt that if somebody is ready in that zone where one wants to share one's life with somebody, then it's quite an emotional journey finding that right person. And not because one's life is incomplete or anything, not that, but I think it was anything that's beautiful, if it's shared with somebody else, it becomes even more beautiful. I think the other thing that came together for me was the support that I got of, of the right team, because that's something I feel very strongly about. I think for anything, you're only as good as your team is. So I always have to, and I always give a lot of credit to my team, because I think that's a very important part of who we are at VFE. It's always teamwork.
Starting out as a solopreneur is no cakewalk, and anyone who's given it a shot knows how challenging those initial years can be. It's a lonely road, filled with moments of self-doubt and that pesky imposter syndrome. The voices in one's head can get pretty loud during this phase. Anuradha, having been through it herself and powered through those tough early days. Now, after a decade on this entrepreneurial ride, what are some of the lessons that she has learned that have helped her become a successful entrepreneur?
I can only speak from my own my own experience. I think there are a couple of things which are really important. One of the main things is you have to believe in yourself, even when you might have those moments when nobody else does. But you have to believe in yourself, and you have to be extremely self-motivated, because there are a number of times that you'll fall, there are a number of times that you will you will come to a dead end, and then you just pick yourself up, because nobody else that for you, and that's not sustainable either. And I think the other thing is that you need to. I believed in building something which is built on. For me, what was really important was building something which stands on integrity and honesty, and that's how I sort of structure things around it. So you have to pick up something that is, that defines, that's at the core of what you want to create. What are the qualities that would define that? And then you need to stick to having that at the core, no matter that's year 1 or year 5, because it's very easy to digress. It's very easy to go off that path, but the core should really should really define everything else. I think it's also very important to be fair and to build a strong team. So there's so many things at different stages that come into play. Being persistent, and all of course the hard work and all of that. And I think it's a journey which is full of challenges. I think if I wanted it really easy, I should never become an entrepreneur, because you switched on all the time. You never have a day off. But I love that. I love that about what I do.
Having a job that lets one bring together one's education, skills, and passion is rare. Anuradha is fortunate to have found this sweet spot. Her background in psychology, coupled with finely tuned and highly intuitive people skills, forms the bedrock of her company. But how exactly does she make it all work, helping people find their match?
I'll tell you, at the start, what I don't focus on. I don't focus on, I don't focus on superficial things. And really, when I look at this in my head, I separate two things into very distinct categories. One is superficial and one is fundamentals. And by superficial, I mean things like, similar hobbies and interests and all of those. It's great if two people want to go out and do things together, but I don't think those things sustain a marriage. What I do focus on are things like, which I call the fundamentals, are things like being very aligned as far as value systems are concerned, being very aligned as far as what you want from life is concerned. Because sometimes people can come from similar backgrounds, or sometimes people can come from very different backgrounds, but they want very, very different things in life. So you can have two people from very similar backgrounds but wanting very different things in life. So therefore they will always be looking in different directions, and they will walk in those different directions. That's not being aligned. Those things don't sustain a marriage. I think it's really much about, look, this is understanding what people's childhood, their journeys, what their experiences have been like, and what do they want from their life, and connecting them, matching them to somebody else who also wants similar things. And sometimes that is more about two people being sharing common values and all of that, but they're not clones of each other, right? That's very important, because there has to be a good team is when two people bring very different skill sets to the table. So equality to me is not about two people vying for the same thing. I think that is a very bad team. When I look at any team, if two people bring the same set of skill sets to a team, I think it's a very lopsided team. So it's about equality to me personally means two people who bring different skill set to the table, and they are both equally respected, whatever those skill sets are. And it's ultimately only those two people in a partnership that can define what those skill sets are. But something that is equally respected, where people have their own choices to make, that for me is equality. So I've always encouraged people to take out the time to get to know somebody, to make sure that that's the person for you before you take you take that. And even then, marriage is a leap of faith. No matter how you slice or dice it, right? You will never know somebody enough, right? So there's just so many things that come together. But also, in a lot of ways, I also believe that marriage is about there's a lot of destiny. It is the right time, the right and the right person, and both these really come together, and that's when it happens.
Putting into words what one is looking for and expressing who one truly is on paper can be a real challenge. The skills of articulating one's desires, values, and capabilities is crucial in many aspects of life. Whether one is creating a compelling resume to land one's dream job, writing a persuasive cover letter, or even crafting a personal statement for academic pursuits, the ability to convey one's authentic self on paper plays a pivotal role. Drawing from her experience, Anuradha outlines her approach to defining oneself on paper in a way that's both authentic and effective.
Today, when I think of what should people look for, I think I want to take a step back and say the most important thing for anyone to do is, if it's parents need to have that conversation with their kids, and what is it that, to what is it that they what is it that matters to them, what defines them, in terms of their core. And for people who are looking, while they're looking for someone, I think what they need to do is they need to, again, take a step back and actually look within. They need to introspect, because there's so many people I talk to who haven't really introspected enough to say, hey, what is important to me? What am I like as a person? What do I value? What is a deal breaker for me? What turns me off? I think it's more, the more they introspect and the more they get, they get to know more about themselves. The answers are all within. So the more you find out about yourself, the right life partner is going to stem from who you are. But generally, at least initially, even with the members that we work with, initially, I find that the focus is very much on, this is the way the other person should be. That's the focus is really on that. And I said, look, let's not talk about that for right now. And sometimes, even for the first 3 hours, I'm not really talking about what the other person should be like. I'm more about, hey, tell me more about yourself. And I was talking to somebody just a couple of days ago, and the person said to me, Anu, I know myself so much better in the last 6 months because I've answered questions that I never really thought about, and I have. I'm sort of looking at this whole thing very, very differently. So I think the answers are of the kind of person we want to be with or should be with, or the person who's the right fit for us, is really the other side of who we are as a person. So the more you focus on who you are and try and find the answers within, then I think it's as close as it gets, and you're not shooting in the dark.
Realizing the significance of turning the focus inward instead of always looking outward is a game changer that can reshape one's entire perspective on life. In her line of work, Anuradha interacts with a diverse array of people, each with their unique backgrounds, upbringings, values, and experiences. It's impossible not to be deeply influenced by these interactions. So how have these exchanges affected Anuradha's perspective? And what changes has she noticed in her life as a result of these meaningful connections?
Well, I think a couple of things. Probably my top 3 would be life experiences. The second thing would be empathy, and the third thing would be, being non-judgmental. I think these things are really important because everybody has their own life journeys, everybody has their own circumstances, their own set of experiences, and really there is no right or wrong. Everybody does the best that they can. I've changed a lot. About 10 years is a long time. I've changed a lot as a person. I think with time, with age, with experiences, with I think I've become more. I think I was a lot more judgmental earlier, and when people listening to people, that, like I said, when the way they've shared about their life and things with me, I think I've become I think I've gone from one end of the spectrum to the other, and I've become extremely, extremely non-judgmental, and I think I'm just that much richer in terms of life experiences, right? Good, not so good, diverse, all of that. I'm just that much more richer. I've had I've done a fair bit of introspection. I've evolved to be somebody. Patience has always been something which has not been my strength, and I think in the last few years I'm so much better at that. So I think I've changed a lot, and I've evolved to be somebody I think I like a lot more as a person.
Anuradha's story strikes a chord with us not just because of a significant personal transformation, but more deeply because she has become someone she truly resonates with. What does she attribute to this growth? What qualities does she believe have played a role in shaping the person she's become?
I've always believed in myself, I think, immensely. And there are times I'll fall, and all of those things will happen. It's not just, it's just been smooth sailing. Life will never be smooth sailing. But I think life will always deal you. That is my belief, that I think life is always, deals a hand, in terms of if you're playing a card game, there's a hand that you're dealt, and you can't control that, but you can control. What you do control is how you react to that. And I think that is what and that in a lot of ways it defines your actions, your responses, and how you react to certain things. So I think that is really important. And to me, the most important things have always been that, you know, go with the flow, um, and and again, I'll say this again, but keep upping the bar for yourself, whether it's personally or it's professionally. Mediocrity is something it's never worked for me. That's something it's never ever worked for me. It's always about setting the bar up higher, just for myself. I think I'm just in competition with myself all the time, and for myself, whatever I can do well, I want to do better tomorrow, better than I could do yesterday. And if I can do that, then I think I'm I'm fine, and I don't like limits. I don't like to put limits on myself. I like a I like a I like to paint my own colors. And that's how I live.
In the grand journey that is life, many of us often find ourselves playing the role of passengers, simply going along for the ride. Anuradha, however, urges us to shift places and become the drivers of our own destinies. Embracing her philosophy of setting high standards, refusing to settle for mediocrity, and consistently challenging ourselves might feel challenging and unnatural at times. Yet it is precisely these actions that have the power to reshape our lives, allowing us to construct a life that mirrors our deepest aspirations, bringing joy, fulfillment, and a profound sense of purpose. As Ralph Waldo Emerson wisely said, "Do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail." Let that idea resonate with you, and may you forge a journey that's not only mirrors your true self, but also makes a lasting impact on the world around you. I'm Nanora.
And I'm Bettina. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope you'll join us again for our next episode. We can be found at nriwoman.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Just look for NRI Woman. If you or someone you know has a story to share, please get in touch with us at hello@nriwoman.com or tweet us at nri_woman. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at NRI Woman Podcast. Please help us spread the stories of these amazing women by sharing it with your friends and family. You can find the details to connect with our guests in the show notes. NRI Woman episodes come out every Thursday, so make sure you subscribe. Until next time, keep learning, keep inspiring, and be kind.